Well, it's a pleasure to be talking to you, Mr. Meserve. How are you today?
I'm well.
That's great. So let's go back and what year was your mother born?
1902.
Okay. And what was childhood like for her growing up?
Brought up in Cleveland, Ohio, a prominent family. It was a traditional family. Lived in a great big Victorian mass. Had She was one of four children,
Okay.
and had a conventional childhood. Went to school, halfway brown school in Cleveland, Ohio. I think it was more of a traditional Midwestern upper class family.
Okay, sure. And so how did she find her way into acting? I understand that she was actually a school teacher originally.
She went to halfway brown school in Cleveland, and she got the male lead in the school annual play,
Okay.
and that's when she said she got bitten by the acting bug, and came down to breakfast the next morning and announced to the family that she was going on the stage, and she would be going off to New York to seek her fortune. And her mother, in polite society in Cleveland, Ohio, if you were in the sort of middle to upper classes, young ladies did not go on the stage. That was not something it's done, and so there was a bit of an argument, and finally her mother said, okay, it looks like you really want to do this, but first you're going to have to go to college to be able to earn a living, because being an actress is a tough grind, and you've got to be able to support yourself, and therefore you need to go to college. And so off she went to Wheelock Kindergarten Preparatory School, the forerunner of Wheelock, and she got a degree in child education, and then taught in the Boston public schools really for almost 10 years until she finally got her break in when she was teaching at Rye Country Day School, and she was reading, helping somebody read for a part, and she was the other person, simply the dummy on the other side. And at the end of the reading, Rose Franklin, who was a famous playwright, said, actually, you were so good reading, I'm going to give you the part.
Oh, wow. Yes. Yes.
And that became another language, a play that opened in the late 20s, early 30s, and it went on the road and did previews, and it was panned, and everybody thought it wasn't going to go, but they all wanted to open on Broadway. This was right during the bank holiday, during the Depression, and the producers came they had a cast calling, and they said, look, we can't get access to our money because the banks are closed, and there's no way we can pay you. At this point, we don't know when we're going to be able to pay you, but you have a choice. We can wrap this thing up now and not open, and you go about your own way, or we can open. We don't know how we'll ever pay you, or whether we'll be able to pay you, but if you want to open, we'll go ahead. And of course, they all were desperate to open on Broadway, so they wanted to get their union card, and so they went ahead and opened, and to everybody's astonishment, it turned out to be a smash hit and ran for a year. And Mother was very successful, and she became the ingenue that season, the leading young actress on Broadway. And from there, she went to Hollywood to make the movie, and came back and forth several times, and her career was off and running.
Okay, sure. So how did she get her iconic portrayal part of the Wicked Witch of the West in 1939?
Well, it was just another gig,
Mm-hmm.
and her agent came to her and said, they want you for The Wizard of Oz.
Mm-hmm.
And Mother was all excited because it was a major breakthrough, and she assumed it was going to be for the one of the witches, but she had no idea they wanted her for
the main
the
part.
Wicked Witch.
Nice.
And she said, "What do you mean? Why do they want that? I'm not sure I want that." And I said, "Maggie, your face is perfect for the witch, and this is a chance to do a great breakthrough in movies." And she finally said, "Okay, I will do it," but she was somewhat reluctant. a little bit taken aback because she didn't think that they were hiring her because she was, quote, ugly. Well, they said, we'll make your face ugly, and so it turned out it was the breakthrough,
and she's remembered
that's how she
even 85 years after, exactly.
Yeah, and she learned about it at a USC-UCLA football game in Los Angeles in the Coliseum, and at halftime, her agent came up to her and said, "You got the part." So that was how it went from there.
I see, yeah. And I also understand that your mother, Margaret, also went through an accident in one of the fireball scenes.
Yes, she did. She was very interested in those days. Safety was not a high priority, and Mother said that it was quite often someone would actually be killed on a set.
Oh, wow.
For some sort of accident, and the safety rules were very lax, and that became one of the things that they eventually fought to get turned about better rules. But she was in a scene, the first opening scene in the Munchkin Village.
Yes.
And she's frustrated. She can't get the shoes from Dorothy, and so she decides to leave in a huff, and she backs up, and smoke comes out, and she disappears. Well, in those days, there were no, people
stunt actors.
You did your own, you did your own work, and so she had to back up into a square marked on the set.
Okay.
And smoke came out and engulfed her. She simultaneously, the trapdoor opened, and she dropped down through the trapdoor, and stagehands caught her down below, and she felt this warmth pass over her face, and they were actually doing a second shooting in order for a backup, and they'd come back from lunch. They were all tired. They were a little bit slow, and the way they got the smoke to disappear was they turned on jets of fire.
Oh, okay.
And so suddenly that killed the smoke, and in the meantime she dropped down through the floor, and she was gone. Well, they turned the fire jets on too soon.
I see.
To kill the smoke. And that's when she got third-degree burn on her hands and second-degree burn on her face. And she was out for 6 weeks,
I see.
Recovering. And they said, "Well, what are you going to do about it? You going to sue or something?" And she said, "Darling," that was, well, they all called each other darling.
Yeah.
And you don't sue. If you do, you'll never get work again.
Exactly. Very true. Very true. Yes.
And so she recovered and came back. And then the first day she got back, they're having a scene where she flies a broom across the sky and saying, "I'm going to get you, Dorothy."
Yes.
And it was a broom had a motor which propelled the broom across the sky. They were on a guy wire.
Oh, okay.
And she said, I'm not gonna. I've had one incident. I'm not gonna do that again." So they had her double do it, and she was in the adjacent studio when she heard an explosion.
Oh.
And the gasoline engine on the broom that was propelling the broom across the sky blew up, and her double was in the hospital.
Oh, wow.
I think for 6 weeks or so.
And
that was sort of just, these things happen.
Yes, and back in those days, they didn't really care about the safety, as you were mentioning. Yes, for sure.
That all became something that the Screen Actors Guild eventually came out among the strikes they'd have, was to get better safety regulations. But everything in those days, the actors did themselves. There weren't any sort of
doubles or
people
stunt
who dummied and took care of them. You had to do it yourself.
Exactly. So looking back at Wizard of Oz and how beloved it is, what is your thoughts on this?
Well, it's become part of the cultural history of the United States.
Yes.
It's interesting. Snow White just come out in 1936, and this is a whole new genre of sort of cartoonish presentations and make-believe, and it was quite a breakthrough for children, because heretofore make-believe in the United States consisted of written words, of books, of pictures, and this is the first time there'd been actually a movie presentation of make-believe, and the impact on the kids was just absolutely dramatic. But Snow White was not that scary. There were there were some evil people in that movie, but the kids absorbed it. But when they got to The Wizard of Oz, they went one degree further as far as terror goes, and so I think it just dramatized the whole idea of make-believe. It's a whole new genre. And when they did the previews prior to the releasing the film, the impact of the witch was so dramatic that the kids literally were running out of the theater screaming.
Oh, wow.
They were just holy. And of course, this is a whole different thing. This is not sitting with your parents reading a book.
That's for sure.
You're in a dark theater. It's dark. It's quickly paced, and the kids never know when the witch is going to show up, and they became traumatized. So Mother's role was cut back to 12 minutes. It was almost 20 minutes long as it originally was done, and so she only appears on the screen for 12 minutes. But the point is that in the story, she's very much there in the background, and you never know when she's going to pop out.
Exactly.
And so the kids were just traumatized by that. So they had to cut her performance way back, and I think it took a long time for the whole movie industry to adjust to this type of terror. And the movie itself never was fully accepted by kids until it went on television, and that was in the late 1950s.
Okay, yes, makes sense. Yes.
And once you, as a child, could sit in your mother's lap in the living room with a light on and a dog on the couch and family around and commercial breaks and whatnot,
it was more relaxed.
It was more relaxed, and kids began to relax, to accept it. And then once Mother saw, Mom, the kindergarten teacher, theory, once Mother saw that the kids could take it, then they adopted the film, and then it became famous, and it became a pastime. But it wasn't until it got on television, and the terror was mitigated by the fact that you're sitting in your home and your family around and dogs on the couch and all that type of thing, that the kids could take it, and then it became the pastime.
Now, she was also a well-respected actress outside of Oz. What was her life like after The Wizard of Oz?
Her true love was acting, and her true home, she felt, was Broadway, and that's where she eventually ended up after she was, I guess, that was 1939, and she stayed in Southern California, so her son could finish grammar school, but then when 1950 came, she headed right back to Broadway, and that's where she spent the rest of her life. And the acting was her real genre, not the movie making, but actual play.
Okay.
And that's where her reputation among her peers developed. She was known as a very fine actress, and so her love was Broadway. She spent every summer on local stage and summer stock, and she did national tours, and that's what she lived for.
Okay,
and so she sort of tolerated movies, but Hollywood was not a friendly place for a single woman with a child to be brought up, and so she wanted to get back to New York, and there's a family of actors. That whole tradition in New York is very comforting, very warming, and that's where she loved to be, and that's how she ended up the rest of her life.
Well, tell us about your mother's thoughts on the sad passing of Judy in 1969.
Well, she had a special relation with her during the movie. Otherwise, they befriended each other. Both were going through difficult divorces. She was kind of a mother, or at least a great aunt to Judy during this filming.
Okay.
And she tells a story which really had an impact on her life and how she then treated me as the child.
Yes.
Judy came to her one day and was all excited and said she showed her this beautiful new white dress, and she was so excited that she was going to be allowed. She'd done all her education on the set, but she always wanted to be part of a normal child, and she was involved with Hollywood High, and they were going to let her participate in the graduation of her class at Hollywood High, and she was so excited that she was going to be like a normal teenager. And at the last minute, MGM canceled her appearance there and sent her with Mickey Rooney on a countrywide tour. I think it was for Babes in Arms or something, and she could not go, and Judy was absolutely crushed, and Mother sort of sympathized with her, but she saw that her life as a teenager, as a child, was totally dominated by the studio.
Yes, exactly. They fully controlled her.
I got to go to the set a couple of times, and I was running around on the set of Wizard of Oz, and I was a little towhead blonde kid, pretty cute looking, and there was a tradition in those days that the studios would sign up the children of their star actors in order to be sure that no other studio got them, and they would be building up a team of potential actors, and they came to Mother and said they wanted to sign me on a contract, and I was 3 years old. I didn't know what was going on, and Mother said over her dead body, she would never allow that to happen. This is no life for a child, and so my whole childhood was in Beverly Hills was actually a wonderful existence of swimming pools and beaches and softball and Cub Scouts and all that. He made absolutely sure that my upbringing was normal and completely protected from the business. And I knew that something going on in her acting world, but I was completely wrapped up as a child in school
and shielded from.
And she shielded, and she would show up every Sunday for the Cub Scout baseball games, and she would take me on trips and whatnot. But she completely protected me from Hollywood. And as soon as I got through graduating 8th grade in 1950, she immediately sold the house, and we all moved back to New York.
Okay, I see, yeah. Okay. And how has Hollywood changed, in your opinion, during or since that era?
Since that era? Well, it's no longer, in my opinion, emphasis on acting. It's much more mechanical. It's much more contrived. And so it's interesting. Her acting was basically what I would call the actor had to be able to, well, they call repertoire. They should be able to take on any part, any type of thing. And so where she thrived on that, and she spent a lot of time in the summers on summer stock going around the country, and that's where you studied a part in the afternoon and then put on another play at night, and you had to be very versatile. And today, she says repertoire acting is gone out of style, and it's very much individualism is the important thing.
Yes, true.
So she found that her ability in Hollywood became outdated, and that's another reason why she went back to Broadway to do acting, and that was her whole life.
So in wrapping up today, what is your thoughts on how you would like to see The Wizard of Oz, or also your mother's legacy, continued into the decades to come?
Well, I think it will continue as it's developed now, and it's the part of history of the movies in Hollywood, and it's legendary, and I think that's how it will continue, and I don't see it paling at all. It's just part of the whole history of entertainment and the development of movies. The irony is that she didn't really value that role. She was happy to do it, but for her, the most important thing was acting, and some of her triumphs was on the stage in
Broadway,
in New York, and getting good reviews there, and developing. She also spent a lot of time in New York on television when television still was centered in New York City before it moved to Hollywood, and so she had quite a reputation in television in the early days. So, but I think the great thing is the legacy of that role, and the whole other aspect of her life was basically reaching out to people and helping people and being involved in charities, and the other thing that she spent a lot of time doing was she was very concerned about make-believe and the impact on kids, and she spent a lot of time making public appearances, and her famous one was
Fred Rogers' Neighborhood, for instance.
Fred Rogers, where she comes out and puts on the uniform, and she was so concerned that kids would understand what make-believe was all about, and she would get down on her knees, and when a child would approach with parents and be absolutely terrified, and have the child touch her face and see, I'm just a nice old lady, and you shouldn't be afraid. And she felt as her the teacher in her was, that the trauma that kids were going through with that character. She worked a lot. So she would make Christmas readings, and she would do all sorts of things to try to convince people that the character was a character, and there was a big difference between that and the human being that they saw in person. And she spent a lot of time promoting that idea that make-believe is something you have to understand. It is make-believe.
Exactly.
And she would hope that character continues as it is as part of the legend of Hollywood and entertainment, but that people will understand that there were human beings behind those characters.
Behind those characters. Well, with that, and it's been a pleasure talking to you, Mr. Meserve.
Good, fine. Well, fun doing it.
Yes, and you have a good day. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.